Well, good morning. My name is Melinda Marson. I'm with Andersen Windows, and Andersen is a privately held company out of Bayport, Minnesota. And thank you to the eGain folks who have asked us to come here today and share our story and tell a little bit about how we're using the eGain tool to help transform our customer experience. But the lights are pretty bright here. I want to start off with a question, and I'd like to know how many people in the audience today have Andersen Windows? Good. So it looks like it's a pretty good show of hands. How many people don't know what type of window they have? See? That's going to help my case today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. I'm going to tell you about Andersen as a company, who we are, what our products are, who our customers are. And then I'm going to share with you the challenge that we had to solve and what that story was and why we picked eGain. And then I'm going to share some demos with you of how we're using the tool, some feedback and results that we've seen to date, and then finally, where are we going from here? So just to tell you a little bit about the company, we are the largest window and door manufacturer in North America. We make windows of all types. We manufacture doors. We have storm doors. We just recently purchased a big company out of, I should say it's a small company that makes really big, beautiful doors out of California, the big folding doors that people will open, and the entire wall is open to the outside. We're the most recognized and used brand. We have about 9,000 employees that work in our different companies, and they're located across North America, Asia, South America. They're located across the world. We have 23 locations and 13 manufacturing sites. The one that you see in the slide is our main plant, which is in Bayport, Minnesota. It's right on the river between Wisconsin and Minnesota. And it's the largest manufacturing facility in the Midwest. It's 65 acres under one roof. So I have to laugh. I never worked in the factory. In the past, many people worked in the plant before they would come into the office. And I had gone out into the plant a couple times and said, well, I'll get back to the front by myself. And literally, it is so large that you can almost get lost in the plant. So it's a great place. It's right on the St. Croix River. Down the right-hand side of my slide, you'll see the companies that we own. Andersen is our main company that we've had. We also have Silverline and American Craftsman. They are vinyl windows. Andersen is primarily a wood-clad window. And then we have Renewal by Andersen, which is our replacement window that we use for people that want to actually take out the windows that they have and replace them with new windows. So I'm sharing with you a slide that's kind of busy, but for a reason. We were founded by a man named Hans Andersen in 1903. Hans was a brilliant man. He started a lumber company, and in that lumber company, he started something called standard frame bundles. And he did this in 1905 because typically what they did was 4 pieces of wood on a job site and built a window. But he was innovative enough to say, hey, if I make that easier for people, they can just purchase that bundle. He had it in a number of different lengths and widths that they could configure it into different size windows. So that was pretty innovative. But then in the 30s, his son actually started the first assembly of a window. And so when you talk about innovation, Andersen has been innovative back to the early 1900s. And over the years, we've had many different types of windows that we've manufactured. We have casement windows, basement windows, awning windows, and the list goes on and on. And in addition, we have storm doors, we have entry doors, we have gliding doors. And I was talking to my coworker that I'm here with today. He said, actually, we were the first company that manufactured a gliding door. We were actually the first company that produced something called vinyl wrapped wood around the vinyl around the wood to make it a much more resistant product for the climate. And we're very heavy out in the Northeast, and that's because of the nature of our product. But over the years, we've been very, very innovative with our products. And also over the years, we've gotten very much an extensive product line. So when we talk about a catalog, we have just a huge catalog. So if you look at all the different product lines on that list, over the years we've made design changes, we've brought on new types of designs, we've added many colors, many different sizes. We have about 30,000 part numbered units, but the rest of our stuff is all configured. So people will give us the dimensions and the colors, and we'll actually configure the unit. So we have a huge catalog. We have 100 series, 200 series, 400 series, A series, E series, and the list goes on and on. So think about that from an agent's perspective when they're taking a phone call. It's really pretty complicated. We also then sell through different channels. We have a dealer channel, which we sell our products to, who then sell to builders and contractors. And we have a group that sells to the Home Depot stores. So we sell to them, who in turn sell it to a consumer or a contractor. And then finally, we also have the commercial end of the business. So we will sell to builders that will build commercial products, schools, healthcare institutions, multifamily homes, but we really have a really very significant base that we sell to as well as a really large product catalog. So I thought this was a great slide. When we talk about innovation, this was out of our history, one of our history books that I pulled out last week, and I thought it was fun to see that innovation was something that's just been really critical to the Andersen family, which is a family that's still involved in the business since the beginning of the 1900s. And in many situations, innovation was talked about when it came to the product. It's one of our core values. We have 3 core values. Innovation is one of those. And so we've always had great innovation when it came to our products. And still today, when you go down to our research and development facilities, the things that they're designing around Windows is just amazing. But we're starting to really talk about innovation much more with the experience, which is what I want to share with you today. So we believe that the experience, you can love a brand, you can love a product, but we want people to say they love working with our company, which is really different than what we did in the past. We spent a lot of time saying, hey, we have the best brand, we have the best product out there, but we can't rely on that because there's a lot of really good products in the marketplace. So we decided we really want to focus more now on some of the experience factors. And we believe that you're going to have an experience. If you don't design and engineer that experience, you're still going to have an experience, but it probably isn't what you want it to be. It's not consistent, and it's not standardized. All right, I'm going to take you through kind of how we started this project. So we had a situation. I work in a contact center. We have basically about 200 agents that handle consumer calls primarily. And so we have a group that handles the Home Depot team. They process the orders for the Home Depots. We have another group that handles our dealer channel, so they're taking in orders from the dealers. But then we have a third group that just handles our consumers. So as you think about it, we have products out there that might be up to 100 years old. And so we have a group of about 200 agents that their job is to take in the phone calls from the consumers. We have a tier 3 that handles the escalated calls. Those are actually the Andersen employees. And then we have a tier 1 and 2 group that are part of a vendor partner that they actually take the bulk of the phone calls. And so over the years, the number of contacts has been increasing. And about 2 or 3 years ago, we were contacted by the marketing department. They said, do you realize how many people are coming to the Andersen website and they're actually hitting on the service and support page? And we knew it. We had an increasing number of phone calls that were coming in, but we went out and we looked at that experience out on our website. So our website was primarily designed for technical people. And if you were a consumer and you went out to the website, and you would probably have to dig pretty hard to get to that service page, and when you got there, you would come to a parts catalog, which was completely focused on a dealer that was going to go out and look for a part, and then you would have to figure out if you were even in the right catalog and figure out what part you needed, and then you couldn't help yourself anyways. You needed to actually pick up the telephone and call Andersen. And so we knew that there was a pretty good opportunity because we had about 1.5 million hits to that site, and about 650,000 were specific to that parts and service page. So we knew there was a really good opportunity for us to really serve those customers differently than we had in the past. And so when they call into our phone center, we had about 850,000 phone calls per year that would come into the phone center. And of those, about 50% of them we were resolving just by a conversation, which even more told us that, hey, self-service might be a great opportunity. We knew that people could probably go out and get an answer to, how do I clean my window? How do I maintain my window? How do I stain my window? There was a lot of those questions that pretty easily people could go out and self-serve. We also knew that we had this great expanding catalog. It was really pretty tough for our agents. They were trying to answer questions, And usually they had to call somebody else within the contact center and say, hey, I've got a vintage part, I need to figure out what I need. So this expanding catalog was making it very difficult for us to be able to respond to those customers. And the third thing is changing demographics. We know that not only our agents that we're bringing in, we have to be able to give them tools to understand this catalog. In our vendor partner centers, the agents are there between 2 and 3 years. Well, it's really difficult for them to come up to speed on several thousand products if they've only been there 2 or 3 years, when we know it takes many, many years for people to really get that knowledge. And so in order to do that, then we needed to figure out what's a good tool that those people could use in order to access the answers to their questions. And then as far as our consumers go, we knew that the demographics was changing there. It was much more people that, not just the type of person, but when they wanted to do business with us. About half of our contacts on the website were after work hours. And as you folks know, I'm busy all day long. The last thing I want to do is try to pick up the phone and call a manufacturer and ask a question. So we knew we needed to service our customers differently than we had in the past. And so we had to meet that changing demographics. I had to laugh. I think earlier we were talking a little bit about the generation that's coming into the workforce. I have a daughter that recently became a sales rep for a medical supply company out east, and she came home and was talking about their tools, and she said, Mom, they actually use the tab key. And I had to laugh because we use the tab key all the time in our systems, but it was just how she approached the tools. She just thought they were terrible and they were antiquated. But those are the people that are coming into our workforce, and we need to have the tools to make their jobs easy and interesting, and we knew that we needed something that was going to be better than what we had. The other thing is we were making some really bad errors when we were sending out parts. So as I mentioned, about half of our calls were coming in. We resolved it with just a verbal answer. Another quarter of those calls, we send out a part. So if somebody calls in and says, hey, I have a broken window, or I need to buy a new screen, and we actually send out a part or a piece. And then the third thing is about the last quarters, we actually send out a service provider to service something for their home. Well, we thought we were doing great on quality. And quality has been a really big metric for Andersen. We believe we've always had great quality products. It's the reason we have people that come back to us for years and years, and they buy an Andersen product because of the brand. Well, when we actually took a deeper look at our metrics for quality, we realized that we were sending out 1 in every 22 parts wrong. And as we started looking at that, we realized it was because we didn't have a good diagnostic tool. We would pull the calls, listen to the calls, and listen to what the agent would ask the person, well, what color is your window? And they'd tell them, and we'd send that color out. They'd call back and say, that's not the right color. So we found that we really had some pretty significant errors around quality. And this was probably the one item that actually helped our project get supported and approved for capital funding, because of when we could really prove that we were not able to, for our agents or our consumers, to diagnose what they needed. So let me ask a question. Does anybody have an idea of what would be the similarity between a Milky Way bar and Andersen Windows? Any ideas? Okay, so let me tell you what our agents were doing. So as I mentioned, we've had products since the early 1900s. We've had the colors that were our base unit colors were white, and we had sandtone, and we had terratone. And the best way for our agents, we would listen to calls. They'd say, what color is your window? And they would say, it's tan. And so then the agent would say, is it dark tan or light tan? And then finally we heard people saying, is it like the inside or the outside of the Milky Way bar? Because it really helped people kind of visualize what that color would be. So we thought that was kind of a fun example of how our poor agents were trying to figure out with the customer what they needed to have to resolve their issue. And then the last thing I want to mention is that we just really had an aging, unsupported tool. We had the K-Commerce, and it was the 4.2 version. So we had actually purchased it, I believe, in 1996, and it had been unsupported since 2004. So we really, really wanted a new tool. Even though it was a good tool, it served its purpose. We could only have one author at a time working in the tool. It did not have reporting capabilities that would help us know what we were diagnosing. And we had a really, really long list of articles that had not been written just because of the limitations of the tool. So these 5 things then together really helped us to build our business case, to go to our leadership and say, you know what, we really need something that's going to, number one, meet the needs of our customers and our company in the future. So then as we set out to achieve our goals, what we said is we really want to transform the experience. As I mentioned, we knew that about half of our customers were coming to our site after work hours, and we knew that we weren't providing the experience that people wanted to have. They wanted to be able to go out and self-serve. We wanted a consistent experience where they could always get the same answer. We wanted an experience where if they needed support, they could go on the website first, and if they still needed an agent, they could call us. But we really knew that that experience was going to be one of the most critical things that we could get from a new tool. And a lot of the other things actually roll under that because we believe experience is the most important. The second thing is actually the quality component. We have a metric in our company that's called the perfect order. It's getting the product to the customer on time, accurate, and complete. And as we looked back, this part of the business was our worst performing quality factor in the whole enterprise. So we knew that if we made a difference here, it was going to be the best way for us to get up. We had a goal of increasing from like 92% to 95%, and this project was going to give us that kind of that lift that we needed to get to the next highest level of quality for the company. And so we really had a factor about making sure that when we diagnose a product, that we are diagnosing the right product and getting it out to the customer. And then our third objective is that we wanted to make sure we were also growing our business. So this is something really interesting. I'm here with my coworker, Jim Milliken, and Jim was the implementation person on this project. I was kind of more up front. And Jim also has worked on our online or e-commerce parts store for Andersen. And if you go out and look at window manufacturers, you're not going to really find that in other manufacturers. We were one of the first ones that were out there actually selling parts, and we realized that we had a great opportunity to sell our parts. And you know, people are looking for screens and new hardware. We always have new products that are coming out. But we knew that at some point we would run into people being concerned about ordering the right part online. And so what we were finding is people would go out, they'd go on the online parts store, they'd figure out what they thought they needed, and then they'd still pick up the phone and call us and confirm what they needed to buy. And we knew that this was okay, but what we wanted to do is give them more confidence and reassurance that when they went through that process that they were accurately picking out what they needed, and then also take it so that when they got to that in the eGain tool, that we could launch them right over to the online parts store. So these are 3 of kind of a number of objectives that we had with this project, but these were the 3 that we were going to hang our hat on and that we were going to measure ourselves against. So why eGain? We actually did an RFP. We had been wanting a new diagnostic tool for many years, and like everybody else, capital resources are limited in companies, and in many situations we were competing against product releases. So where there was new products that typically won because they had great revenue opportunities, and we didn't have so much of that, so we were always competing against those projects. And we went out, we did an RFP, we brought in a number of different companies, and they really had a significantly different capability set. And we knew that because of our situation where we had all these vintage parts, and it was really going to be critical for going through a series of questions in some situations to find out what they had, that we needed something that had a really good, robust diagnostic tool. And this is where we felt on some of the other vendors, we didn't see that kind of that whole case-based reasoning or that whole guided question path where they would ask a number of questions to get them to the right answer. So we knew we needed robust diagnostics, and eGain really was very strong in that. We also felt that their search capabilities was very powerful. The ability for it to have the federated search and to go and to look kind of through different sources to get us the answer. The out-of-the-box capabilities were very appealing to us. We knew that we didn't want to rebuild what we had today because it wasn't working, and so the tool really gave us functionality that we wouldn't have to go to our IT partners and ask them to help build something into it. And also the eGain folks really had knowledge of our tool because they had, in previous years, had CasePoint. They really knew our tool, and they knew us, a little bit better, and that gave us some comfort in our decision of why eGain. And the last thing is we really wanted some technical experience. We were so close to it for so long that the last thing we wanted to do was just go rebuild all the cases and the logic that we had. So we were really looking for them to say, hey, here's how we think you should do it, and guide us through the process. And the last thing is just minimizing our IT resources. And like I mentioned, we're always competing for the resources down there with other people. So when we went with eGain, what we did was we chose their knowledge tool as well as their web self-service. And we wanted it for consumers. In the past, our website had really been geared toward dealers and more technical people. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how our website was redesigned. So we wanted it to be consumer-facing as well as a tool for our agents. We picked a cloud-based option rather than on-premise. And we chose to not do a mass migration. We said we wanted to start from scratch. We were a little bit worried about garbage in, garbage out. So we chose to say, we're just going to pause. We're going to take a look at how we want to rebuild the structure out there, and that's what we chose to do. We are about 80% of the way done with the consumer site. But what I want to do now is kind of just shift over and show you a little bit about what we've actually built so far. So as I mentioned, we started from scratch. We started in December of last year, so we're really still very early in this project. We think we have a lot to learn. We've learned a lot already. We're really pleased with some of our results, and we know that there's other areas that we still have a lot of work to do. So this is our Andersen website. One of the things that was occurring at the same time that we were putting our eGain solution is that our enterprise was also redesigning the website. They had gone out and done a lot of user studies, and they had learned that because we sell to dealers, we had tended to have a lot of our website information more directed toward them rather than the actual homeowners. And so our enterprise, our marketing area, was doing a website redesign, which in a way was challenging. It was good for us, but it was also challenging because it was like we were building the airplane as we were flying. They would be doing things, and all of a sudden they'd make a design change, and we'd have to go back to the eGain team and say, hey, we're making a change on this. So it made it a little bit complicated, but in a way it was nice because it was all brand new, and it allowed us to have some new opportunities and space on the site that we didn't have in the past. So there were some requirements that we had when we started this project. One of them was that we had to have branding that was the same as our Andersen website. So they gave us some pretty strict instructions on every single time they hit an eGain site, they got to have this font, this color, this look, this feel. So that was one thing, was the branding was really critical. They wanted the header and the footers to be on every one of the eGain pages. They also said people cannot know they've left the Andersen site. So we had to make sure that as they were going to different pages onto the eGain site, that we actually had it so that it was a pretty seamless experience and that it was connected. We also knew that we needed a very visual experience, which is different than what we had in the past. I think the Milky Way bar is a good example. And I think that's why we had a lot of misdiagnosis, is that when you're talking, people perceive things differently, and you aren't very accurate in some situations. So having pictures were incredible for us. On our online parts store, because people could see pictures, our return rate was 2% or less. On the standard side of the business, we were returning things at about 10%. So we knew that visuals and images were going to just be critical for people to see and say, that's the one that I have. And the last thing is it needed to be more consumer friendly. We had, so many of our documents are written in technical terms. I mean, I'm a newbie to Andersen. I've been there for 6 years. I still don't know what a lock actuator is. It's actually, there's all kinds of terms like that, and we knew that we needed to bring in different people that actually could write it to be more of a homeowner friendly or consumer friendly. Oops, I'm gonna back up. So on this site, you can see the help center is actually on the bottom, on the right-hand side. We originally were not. We were up on the header. It was a item that said, where it says for pros, it was service and support. And I think they were a little bit afraid of us at first. It was kind of like, let's just test the waters. And as we got our site up and going, they said, hey, we need to get you on the front page because we're getting a lot of hits. We want to make it easy for people to find it. And so we actually brought it up to the front page. So now I'm going to show you the eGain site. And I'm going to just take you through what a consumer might see. I'd really encourage you when you get back to work or at home, if you want to kind of just go out and play around. And like I said, we have a lot of content out there, but we have a lot more to go. So I'm going to show you first the consumer side of it. We chose to start off with building out our articles for the consumers first. Because we didn't have anything out there, we thought it would be a great place for us to actually get some content out there, get some quick wins out there first. And whatever articles we were writing, we could also write it to be agent-facing and introduce that later. So we chose to go with the consumer option first. And I'm going to talk you through kind of this a little bit. We have the search capability, the browse topics, we have most popular, recently added, and these are all kind of the self-service type capabilities or vehicles that people have kind of a one-to-one relationship. So I need to figure out how to clean my window, and it will bring you right to the article that will answer that question. And we knew that across our product lines, we have a lot of those questions that are, whatever the question is, it doesn't matter which product it is, it would be the same answer. So we really took a look at what are all of those types of questions that we wanted to build out the articles that they would use search or browse topics. But then we knew our bigger issue was really around the whole, I need to figure out what product I have. Because most people were like you folks, that sometimes you don't know what you have at home. And you may not even know if you have an Andersen window or not when you call in. And we knew that about at least half of the talk time on the call was just figuring out what window or door unit that the person had. And so down the middle of this tool, we're going to talk you through how we're using the guided help capability for the consumer to diagnose what product they have. And then the beauty of this tool is you can connect them all together. And so I'm going to show you how we've done that connection with the tool to take a homeowner through a situation. So I just picked an example. You know, it's Trevor's little boy on here, and he hit the ball through the window. So Trevor is going to need to call into Andersen and figure out what he needs. So in this situation, he can just, type into the search bar, I got a broken window. And this is our Help Center homepage. This is the eGain tool that we're using. And once you enter into the search functionality, broken window, it's going to bring you back an article. And in this article, it gives you a lot of different options on what you can do. The first thing it tells you is, hey, yes, you can replace a broken window. We wanted to be able to give the person kind of some knowledge to say, hey, you can or you can't. And we give them a lot of different options on the article of what they can do to resolve it. We tell them not only can you fix it, but you can also order that part through our online part store. And so they can do that there. And we also tell them that they can get a service provider if they'd like to. And one thing I'm going to notice is that as a homeowner, I'm going to say, hey, look at down below, there's even a way that it tells me how I'm going to install that product once I get it. So they may go to the broken glass article, but then they realize, hey, I don't know which unit I have. I don't know what I have. So on here, we're going to say, I need to go to the guided help to figure out how to identify what product I have. So in here, they would pick, and just remember, this is just one example. There's so many different paths you can go down. So then this brings you back to our Help Center homepage, which is going to say, hey, I need to identify what Andersen product I have. And Andersen just started putting product identifiers on our windows within the last 10 years, which has made it really difficult. Usually you have a VIN number or something you can call and say, this is the number I have. It'll pull back your serviceable bill of materials. We didn't have that until recently. So just think about all that product that's out there that's older. And so this then gives a person to figure out, a tool to figure out how they have, what they have without having that VIN number. So if they do need to look up that number, it will say, hey, if you say yes, I don't know if I have it or not, it'll tell you where to go find it. Otherwise, it'll say, no, I don't have that. So then it's going to take you through the guided help path. So this is the eGain guided help tool. And what we chose to do is we said, we're just going to use pictures. We think that's the easiest way for a person to go through the guided help path is just to see a picture. And so in this situation, it's basically saying, do you have a window or a door? I don't think it can be much simpler than that. So the person picks, I have a window. And then it'll show you all the different types of windows. So I think in the past, there were so many different situations. Does it open on the side? Does it go up and down? Just think about all those conversations that our poor agents were having with that person. So right here, they can actually pick what the style of window is they have. So in this situation, Trevor has a casement unit. Hope you knew that, Trevor. And casement, we've had many, many different redesigns. It was one of our first windows in the 30s. And so we've had a number of style changes over the years. And so, and this part of the diagnostic, they're going to show them the different features and components of that window that it has, so a person can go, hey, that's the locking mechanism I have, or that's the operator that I have on that window, so that they can continue making good decisions to get to the right answer. And then it brings them to the answer. It says, hey, you have a 400 series casement window, and then this will be the article that they actually get to, and it will show them all of the different items within that window that they could actually replace or need to know about. So on the bottom of it, this is just going to show you, there's the difference between the sand tone and the terratone, the second and third one from the left. So, and it shows all the different pieces within that window that they could actually have to replace. And on the very bottom, it'll say, hey, if you want to go ahead and buy that part or piece, go ahead and go to our online parts store. So now I'm going to take you out of guided help, and it's going to bring you over to our online parts store. In some situations, this is not in the eGain site. This is actually a different commerce site that we've had for a few years. But here at this point, eGain will actually take you in some situations right to the specific part that you need to order. If there's still decision making that needs to occur, for example, on a sash, you still need to figure out what size it is and what color. But it will bring you over to our online parts store. The person can purchase the part. It will get sent to them. And then you would go back and think, hey, I remember that when I was looking at that article that I want to install that unit. And you may look at this up front before you even try this project and say, is that something I want to do or not? But you may say, you know what, I want to take that on myself. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go into the search functionality. And there's I punch in or type in, hey, I want to install a casement sash window, and it will pull up a number of articles for you. And as you see here, the one interesting thing is it'll tell you if the article is like a YouTube video. We've had great success with YouTube videos with our customers, and so the person can come in and just type in, hey, I want to install a casement sash. It'll bring up back what articles we have out there. And in this situation, I'm going to say I want to install a casement sash unit. And here's the article that it will bring back out of eGain, and it will give you the different components. And as you can see here, it'll show you kind of what are your different options on installing that casement sash. And at the bottom of that article, it'll tell you here's the different service providers that you can use if you want to go ahead. And then finally, if you want to do it yourself, it actually brings you to a series of YouTube videos. And so we've actually developed a number of YouTube videos at the end of our articles where people can actually use that, look at that YouTube video. And we actually are pretty proud. We actually just had, I think, 100,000 YouTube video hits since we've started doing that. And we will just link the eGain article right over to the whole library of YouTube videos we have. So that's an example of how a consumer could go through a case using our eGain tool that we have. We've received some real good feedback so far. People, like we said, we've just started this less than a year ago, so we're still getting out there and having people use the tool quite a bit. But here's two real positive comments, and people said, I highlighted the word, it gave me the confidence to do this myself. And so that's the kind of stuff we're looking for from our customers. Next, I'm going to quickly show you kind of what our agent view is, and it's very similar to what that consumer view is. But I'm going to show you just a couple things that are different. And this is basically their homepage. We've actually asked our agents, what do you like about it? And breaking news is something that they like a lot. It gives them the ability to see what's new, so they aren't kind of finding out about it after the fact. It's a nice way to really keep them up to date on what's new in the tool, especially during this growth phase. Links, it gives them the ability to have some pretty quick links to other tools outside of eGain that we're using at Andersen. We tend to have a lot of systems and a lot of homegrown systems, but this is a quick and easy way for the agents to be able to get to something that they may use pretty frequently along with my favorites. So it has the ability for them to kind of save their favorite articles and save things that they use very frequently. And then the last thing is they love the email capability from the tool. Because in many situations, they're sending out something to the customer. So right from the tool, then they can actually email an article. And we've received feedback, this just saves them a lot of time rather than having to go out. We still use Outlook for our main type of email, so this gives them a way to really quickly, right from the eGain tool, send something directly to the homeowner. So we just did this last week to see what they would say. And what they felt, they loved the search functionality. It made their job so much easier. We didn't really have a search capability in the past that was effective, and the eGain tool has really helped them. We have people that have worked at Andersen for 30 years. They don't want to go through the same articles that somebody that's maybe been there for 6 months. They know what they need to get to. They'll do a quick search. It'll bring them to where they want to go. They also felt that the visual representation has helped them tremendously. They can be on a phone call with a homeowner, and they'll say, hey, jump onto the Andersen site. I'm going to take you to the help center, and we're going to make sure that we're looking at the same thing. Now, if we had co-browse, which we want, it would be easier to do this, but for right now, having those visuals out on our website has been a great help, especially on the quality aspect. The email, as I mentioned, the ability to make live changes. I think with so many systems at Andersen, when we wanted to make changes, it took so long. You know, we'd send something down to IT, and our IT partners would do it as quickly as they could, but it wasn't as rapidly as we needed it to be done. And they also felt that just having that customer-facing, we did not have good consumer-facing tools. The wording, like I said, we have so many complicated terms in our business, and this really made it much easier for the homeowners. Areas to improve. We just recently went through the optimization with eGain. They came in and did an in-depth study and sat with our agents and watched them. And this was some information that they provided us too. The search capability for various levels of people, we need to continue to refine that. We have to really take a deeper look at our whole search and make sure that it's bringing back kind of the best results we need it to. So that will be something we'll look at. They said keep adding more visuals and integrations. We have not yet integrated eGain with other tools. We have a homegrown tool called Window Care that our consumer agents use to track their calls with consumers. It's the only CRM tool that we have right now, but they said it'd be much easier if it was integrated, so that's something we're also taking a look at. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of our early results. As I mentioned, we're still very early. We have a lot left to do. But here's some of the things that we've seen so far. Number one, quality, as I mentioned. If we did nothing else on this project, if we could send out the right parts, we felt that that was going to be impactful for the customer experience. And since the beginning of the year, our errors on parts has gone down about 33%, which is a pretty big number. You know, and it's pretty expensive. So for us, quality was going to be the key thing that we needed to attack. And we've seen really excellent results with quality so far. The second thing is we are getting about 40,000 visits on our eGain sites and articles per month. This is something we still are trying to get less, we're still trying to deflect our calls a little bit, but when we had the optimization done, what they told us is, and this is just the nature of Andersen, is we've been a very nurturing company. We tend to say, call us. You know, we like having that relationship both with our dealer partners, our Home Depot stores, but also our consumers. And so one of the things that we saw when the optimization team came in, which was so close to us we didn't see it, was we really, really frequently in our articles are telling people to call us. And so we need to figure out what's that balance between when do we want them to help themselves and when do we want them to transition over to a phone call. And the last thing is we're pretty excited about this, is we didn't know how quickly this would take on kind of a life, but it's not a huge number, but what we have seen already this year is about 1,400 sales when people actually went to the eGain site and they clicked right over to our online parts store and purchased something. So even though that's not a huge number, it's going in the right direction, and we know that it's going to work once we continue to get more and more diagnostics out there to get them to our parts store. So what's next for us? We have a lot left to go on our implementation. So far, we've only rolled this out with our call center agents that are working with our consumers that handle Andersen products. We also have a number of different divisions that want the tool, including our storm door division and some of the newer companies that we've brought on in more recent years. We also have service providers, so we have I think over 5,000 service providers that are out in the field every day working on kind of Andersen warranty and non-warranty issues, and they would love to have the tool available to them that's technical enough that they can use it out in the field. And in addition, we want to also use the tool with our business-to-business agents. So the people that are taking the orders from the Home Depot stores and from the dealer channel, we have not rolled it out to them yet. So those are areas that we really would like to continue to build out all of our articles and have them utilize the tool. As I mentioned, we just had the optimization services team come in, and actually the results were, it was really good. I mean, they told us that we did a good job of kind of blending in with the brand. They felt that it was a visually pleasing experience. Some of the things that they pointed out to us were things that we kind of were fumbling with that they really reaffirmed, and one of them was with search. We have to figure out how to refine the search capability to make sure that we're always bringing back the best article for what the people are looking for. So that's an area that we're going to look for. We also have some skill sets that when we started this project were a little bit different than what we had in the past, because our IT partners did so much of the work for us that we really have different people in different roles that we needed to make sure we have the right people, and also having a technical writer, a person on staff that can write articles that are more consumer facing versus Andersen speak. They also are going to help us with our guided help. So right now we have guided help that is really just focused on identifying the product, which is the most important for us right now, but help us figure out what situations can we use guided help in more frequently, because we think that's a really powerful tool, and that's something that we didn't see in a lot of the other tools that we looked at. The other thing that we're looking at next is just kind of expanding on some of the eGain tools. We want co-browse really bad. We have a couple staff members that tell us probably every day they want co-browse. One of my coworkers laughs. He said our co-browse today is we fax something out to somebody, they circle the right answer, and they fax it back to us. And that's about the extent of our co-browse capability. So we know that there's an opportunity there for us to look at both co-browse and chat, and even V11. We're actually on V10 right now. And then the last thing is we're also looking at how do we integrate this with other systems. We really truly want a 360-degree view of our customers so that we better serve our customers and give them a better experience. So those are really the areas that we're going to be focused on in the next, I'd say 6 to 12 months. We were really pleased with the optimization team's recommendations, but also very pleased with all the eGain folks that helped us, from the sales team to the implementation team to the support teams. They've been great to work with.
You mentioned that your email traffic went up, your website. Did your call volume go down? What is that difference there? Because we find that same dynamic in utility industry. Customers go online and then they'll call. So what have you really seen? Is it a 1% reduction, 2% reduction?
Yeah, right now we have not seen a call reduction, but we know that it's probably because we still, in some articles, have call us up to 3 times. We knew we wanted kind of a soft transition, but that's an area that we're going to, because we didn't want them to give up. We knew that if we didn't have, we have a lot of articles yet to build, and we knew that if we didn't give them an out to still call us, that we didn't want them to get frustrated. I mean, one thing is that people buy a house less than 2 times in their entire life. When we have our audiences, it's really important for us, whether it's a pre-purchase or during the purchase or in a service situation, that we treat them the best that we can. So right now we haven't seen, call deflection is something that we want to achieve, and it's clearly a metric, but right now we're not weighing so heavily on that. We really wanted to get it so that people were having an alternative way to deal with Andersen in the short term. But
you mentioned the guided help for the customer. Do you find that your agents with all those products that they use guided help also?
Absolutely. And actually that's one of the ways that we're helping train some of the new agents is using the guided help, because it actually will take them through the series of questions to get them to the right answer. So we absolutely have always used guided help. I think CasePoint had guided help as our primary tool, but most definitely.
Was the business value that you expected in your proposal the same as what's happened post-implementation? Were there any surprises?
It's a different mix than what we expected. I think we've seen a higher benefit on the quality side of it. We had built some savings in for call deflection that we have not seen yet, but we know we will. And as far as the increased revenue through online parts, we're getting there on that one. So I'd say we were a little off, but we didn't have a good baseline to start with. So we feel like we picked the right measures. We just have to focus more heavily on how do we get as much information out there to get the call deflection that we would like to see.
You had a question around content. In terms of getting content into the knowledge base, what ways are you guys using to drive content creation for your knowledge base? What ways have been successful, I should say?
We've reassigned. The beauty of one of my jobs is a relatively new job at Andersen, and what I've been doing is implementing projects that have been able to free up some of our agents to work on different projects. And so one of the things that we've been able to do is redeploy people through savings on other projects, and we've actually taken a number of the employees that we gained some real good efficiencies in other areas, and we've put them on just actually writing articles and building that content. The other thing that we did was we are using our third-party call centers to build some of those articles because they're taking the bulk of the consumer calls, and we feel that they can best write the articles in the ways that the consumers would want to see them.
Question I have is that data migration, how many knowledge articles or number of content did you actually have to migrate from into the eGain system?
Yeah, we had about 5,200 articles originally, but we did not know if we were using 50% of them all the time, some of them never, because we just didn't have good reporting. And so I think we're up to now close to, I'd say about 4,000 articles recreated, but we know that there's going to be additional ones. I think we're going to probably end up with more articles than we had before, but they may be different. And I think what we're really counting on is understanding our reporting and our analytics to see what people are going after, what questions they're asking most frequently to make sure we're writing articles based on that. So we have some tools that we didn't have before, but we had about 5,200 and then we had a bunch in queue that we hadn't even created yet. So I don't think we have an extraordinarily large amount of articles compared to some other companies. We did a phone call when we were in the RFP process and asked people, and there was people that had upward of 25,000 articles. So we don't have a huge content, but we also think we may use fewer articles too because some of them are more common. For example, in the past, we would create for every product line, let's say it's a casement window, we'd do all the way down that guided help path and we'd do a casement article on how to clean. Well, we know that some of those are common articles that would cut across every single Andersen product. So in a way, we're more efficient so that we don't need to have as many articles ultimately that we did in the past.
Thanks again, Melinda.
Yep.